We're going to forgive whoever was in charge of Derek's haircut. Hello and welcome to today's video. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Marie and today I am, as you can probably tell from the title, making an Odette dress from the movie The Swan Princess. So this is going to be the first part of two and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But this is my first cosplay proper that I'm making in about a year and a half. So I'm super excited to get back into cosplaying. This dress has been so much fun to make and I've learned so many things. So without further ado, let's get started. So this costume is actually not going to be debuted until Renaissance Fair, which isn't until late April, early mid-May. But the reason I'm starting on it so soon is because I actually have two Ren Fair costumes that I'm making, and I'm a very slow seamstress. So I'd rather not be bogged down with waiting until the last minute and then being super frustrated and rushing things and not getting the details that I want down. So the reason why I'm separating this into two parts is because I'm doing a lot of hand beading, and you will be seeing a little bit of that in this video, but I'm currently working on hand beading the sleeves, and I completely underestimated how much time that was going to take. So in part two, you will be seeing the sleeve construction as well as the belt construction, and then the final product with wig, jewelry, costume, all of that. And I also do want to point out that my version of Odette isn't going to be screen accurate because I'm hand beading a lot of things that aren't a part of her original costume. But I took a lot of inspiration from medieval dress, from the ballet itself, and from the movie. I really wanted my Odette to be one of a kind. It's a beautiful dress in the film, but I wanted more pizzazz, more jazz hands, if you will. So let's go ahead and go to the drawing board. So the first part of creating Odette was drawing out a sketch. I'm not a professional artist. I never learned how to master the croquis, but I like to draw out my design before putting it into a three-dimensional medium, because it helps me visualize what it's going to look like. It helps me see the lines, and that's what's really important for me. So once I drew my design, I went straight to the cutting room floor, or shall I say bed in my case, because my room is kind of small. So I utilized two simplicity patterns. I utilized Simplicity 1551 for the base dress and Simplicity S909 for the blouse sleeves. So I'm actually going to be drafting the belt myself, but I'm going to wait until the rest of the dress is done just so I can get accurate measurements for the belt. As you're going to see later in the video, getting this dress to fit just right was a big concern of mine. And I was a little bit scared to use this pattern because my original idea for this dress was a multi-layered bodice with boning and all the fixings, but I realized that Odette's dress does not have a seam where the waist meets the skirt, which means that her dress is one piece. So I could either try to do boning on that and try to do multiple layers on that, or I could do a very fitted single layer with a chemise on the bottom. And that's what I went for. I did cut the pieces of the dress a couple of sizes too large, just in case I was going to need a lot of seam allowance, and I really did need a lot of seam allowance, because it's always easier to size down than size up. I always buy at least an extra yard of fabric just in case, and then I use that to create something else. After the fabric was cut, I immediately went to the sewing machine. I did deviate a little bit from the pattern instructions just because I knew I wasn't going to sew every single part of the dress, and it worked out just fine. I mean, it made a dress. I thought the pattern instructions were pretty easy to figure out, so if you're looking for something simple, this is definitely one you should go for. I think simplicity patterns in general have really easy instructions to follow along with. I will say the white fabric that I worked with, and pardon me because I cannot remember what this fabric is for the life of me, it's a little difficult to work with. It had a little bit of a stretch, which was kind of a pain to work with. It made the dress fit a lot better, but while working with it, some of the elastics would like snag, and then it would create a really ugly, ruching, bubbly, popping effect on the fabric, so I would have to straighten that out, and I had to be very careful about my seams, about how I was sewing, so that didn't happen all over the dress.
Hello, and welcome to my restroom. The best part of the house, I think. Don't mind my like 10 feet of jumbled up microphone cord. Sorry about that. This is what I'm going to wear underneath, so it's just like a regular nightgown. Fabric really isn't sheer, but I would like an extra, I guess, layer between my skin and the dress because it is white. So as you can see, I just used the pattern and I cut it out. This is the very front. So I am going to cut the neckline a little bit, and then I'm actually going to add the bias to it before I start sewing everything together, just because I don't want to do the bias last and make it look like a poorly wrapped holiday present. For right now, this is what we have to work with.
While working on the front and the back of the dress, I decided to add the blue bias tape, which I decided to add the blue bias tape on her neckline. I wish I had added it on each individual panel of the front instead of sewing them both together at the end. So I did that for the back, where I just sewed each individual bias tape to each individual panel before sewing it together, and that worked a lot better. I basically made my own bias tape using a very rough measurement. It's a lot longer on the inside, so I had to trim it down, but overall it worked pretty well. I was really happy with the way it turned out. I also cut the excess fabric along the seam when I sewed it for the first time, and then I turned it over to the wrong side and I sewed again. This step isn't super necessary to do, but I do recommend it just so your fabric and your garment are reinforced. I decided that I was going to use a zipper for my closure. No, it's not historically accurate, but this is Swan Princess that we're talking about. My original plan was actually to use eyelets when I was thinking of doing the bodice with the boning, all of those layers. But when I realized it was just going to be a single piece, single layer garment, I knew that that fabric was not going to withstand me trying to punch eyelets into it, and it would rip and tear. I tried kind of a different approach for sewing zippers. I am terrible at sewing zippers, but this new attempt where I simply hemmed the fabric first and then I attached the zipper, so I wouldn't be doing both at the same time, if that makes any sense. If not, feel free to ask me what the heck I'm trying to say. I think I can write it better than I can express it verbally. But anyways, I tried that method and it did work a lot better. It was a lot easier. My fabric wasn't slipping as often as it usually does, so I'll take the win. So the dress itself, it didn't take super long to construct. I use Cosplay to keep track of all my projects, and I think all of the construction time, including cutting fabric and cutting my pattern, took maybe about 4.5 hours for this portion of the dress. Here's where it gets rough. The next part is going to be a lot more difficult and a lot longer. But before that, I do want to say that I actually didn't hem the bottom, and I just used some bias tape I bought at Joann's. I knew that if I was going to hem this fabric, it would start puckering at the bottom and give it almost that scalloped effect that you see on some hems. It happens to my hems all the time before I discovered bias tape, and now that I've discovered bias tape, I'm never going back to hemming the bottoms of dresses ever again. Now we get on to the time-consuming part. This is the reason the video is in 2 parts. The hand beading. And I knew I wanted to do hand beading because I knew it would break up some of the concentration of the blue and give it a little bit more pop. So far I have been working on one sleeve, and it's taken me 3 hours and I'm not done. I'm probably going to finish it tonight. I'm very close to one sleeve. You'll see the sleeves next time. I'm really happy with them. And here are a couple of clips of what I have finished. I'm so sorry for the lighting. When I filmed it, the sun was everywhere. I'm really happy with the way this dress fits, which was my biggest concern. The hardest part I think is done. I do have a couple more time-consuming things to work on, but after that it'll be done, and I'm so excited to have finished this so early because now I can concentrate on my other Renaissance fair costume. 15-year-old me who made her own Odette dress, which was not very successful, would be very proud, I think. I'm just super happy, super proud of myself, and super humbled to see the progress from then to now. And that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed today's video and you aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and leave a thumbs up on this video. The video that I will publish in 2 weeks is going to have the final portion of this, where I will work on the sleeves, the belt, and I'll try to figure out what in the world to do with this wig that I bought, because it's gorgeous, but it has entirely too much hair. If you'd like to see more of my sweaty, poorly lit face, go ahead and follow me on my social media, which I will link in the description box below and at the end of this video. I'm actually going to be posting my Odette costume pictures as soon as the costume is finished and I can go and get a really nice photo shoot at the park. Until next time, my friends, keep on sewing, and I will see you very soon. Bye!